According to a recent report for Europe by Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, produced by a collaboration of 750 climate change scientists, Europe will see increases in temperature between 1.5 and 4.5 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. Sea levels are predicted to rise in the region between 0.55 and 1.9 metres. Scientists also predict that there will be a marked increase in extreme events such as wildfires, storm surges, heat waves, droughts, and heavy precipitation. As a result, there is now an urgent need to plan for the climate adaptation needed to protect our societies and also manage large-scale climate-related disasters. In 2023, the European Union's Horizon Europe programme has funded a new innovative project called Directed. We are looking at 4 main areas. These are reducing administrative silos, building more fit-for-purpose strategic collaborations and capacity, promoting multi-risk thinking for complex climate change risks, and making the risk data, models and tools work together to assist real-world problems.
Our main aim is to combine all the knowledge and tools and data and models that already exist in climate modeling and in disaster risk management, and also develop new models and combine these with the governance perspective, and bring these two sides together and help them to communicate and facilitate the interoperability between these models and between the data, and then between the actors that actually have to take action. From the research side, we have the natural science that does all the climate modeling and the damage and risk modeling, but we also have social science that is concerned with governance strategies and communications between the different stakeholders, and essentially putting the information that is created by these models into action and into policies.
The Directed project has 4 real-world labs where local authorities and disaster management organisations are bringing together a complex range of stakeholders who need climate change information for disaster risk management and planning. The real-world labs create collaborative environments for learning and innovation, as well as promoting multi-level collaborative risk governance among people managing disaster risk and climate adaptation.
So we are facing multiple risks in the capital region of Denmark. Flooding, we are used to saying more water from above, from the sides and from the ground. So more rain, cloudburst, more rising sea levels, more storm surges, and rising groundwater level. And then
and then recently, in the last couple of years, we're also starting to see more drought risks, and that is a quite new challenge for us and not something we have that much experience with in Denmark, but probably in the coming years that's something that we'll have to focus on as well.
A lot of challenges. One of them is multi-risk hazards. Like we see not only, or we can see cascading effects from extreme weather events, and that's something that can be hard to plan for, like both in terms of the disaster risk management, but also in the longer term adaptation planning. So we are also facing challenges when it comes to like transboundary climate adaptation, like when water crosses administrative borders, like several municipalities, for example, both in terms of larger coastal areas, but also large water catchment areas, where it can be difficult to cooperate and find the correct amount of resources, finance, and do citizen involvement across such long stretches or geographical areas.
Well, one of the main benefits is the whole focus on data and aligning data across sectors. In Denmark, it's up to the individual municipality to get enough data for their geography. So your data might not be comparable to your neighbor's data.
Also, like a key concept of this directed project is this concept of interoperability. So trying to break down these silos that exist both within data, risk assessment, like different hazards, but also very much relevant to us is the whole like governance aspect. How can we better manage both disaster risk reductions and longer-term adaptation planning?
We often have very good data available already, very good models that are available in the disaster modeling community, in the climate modeling community. But often enough, these data sets, they only work with one specific model that they were designed for. And then the output of these models can only feed into one specific tool. And what we want to facilitate is that the output from one model can work with many different decision support tools, for example.
So the Ecosistema is an environmental engineering company, and we are specialized in geospatial data and environmental modeling. And our role in the directed project is looks at the real world lab in their activities. And we are also focused on development of technological part of the project in terms of interoperability and in terms of integration of different data in order to be used during an emergency. Interoperability means the possibility to share different type of data and different type of modeling tools in order to support decisions during an emergency, during also a long-term climate change adaptation. So, so far we have plenty of data and tools that are available, but most of the time they're not communicated by each other. So there is needs, especially during an emergency, that all the data and tools are able to communicate each other in order to take the best decision. We have learned from the past, also from past recent event with a lot of losses, that it's very important that different sectors start to communicate to each other, and we should overcome the existing barriers. We should try to communicate with the same tools, or at least with the same language, in order to have and take effective decisions.
We are using different approaches, I'd say, frameworks that would help us to deliver specific solutions, but also provide a sort of a framework or an angle for approaching our problems. And we are using, for instance, the risk governance framework proposed by the International Risk Governance Council as a sort of an overarching framework for analyzing, understanding risk, but also about coordinating engagement processes. And then also we're using the tandem framework that very much focuses on knowledge co-creation, knowledge co-production with stakeholders, and provides concrete steps and leverage points to facilitate stakeholder engagement.
A data fabric is kind of the connecting software bits and pieces that kind of bring together all the different data products, processing services, information needs, resources, different views, different angles. So it's kind of quite a complex structure that connects all those different information resources and processing tools that we have available into kind of harmonized ways so it can nicely kind of interact with each other. 15Earth's key role is working on the data fabric, which will kind of integrate different data sets, different processes that come from the real-world living labs that we have in the project, and kind of combine those data sets in a federated way so that people from different locations can access different information products that are tailored to their needs, to their stakeholders' needs that we will investigate during the project, and kind of build upon open standards and open interfaces so that we can really interconnect different data sets, break up different data silos, and have a kind of joint view on the same public data sets, but also the possibility to bring in private and non-public data. Well, the idea is currently to have really dedicated information views on the data sets and really tailored to the different needs of the different authorities and first responders. And kind of these needs are still to be discovered and to be fixed within the real-world labs by discussing with stakeholders and discussing what kind of information do we need at that point in time. And then the different information products can be as simple as kind of traffic lights going from green, yellow to red, depending on how severe the situation is, up to complex dashboards where you can combine different data sets of gauging stations, weather maps, raster data, Copernicus EO data. So it can be the whole range from very simple tools to just say go or don't go and where to go, but also kind of to complex analysis systems. You can really look into the data itself if you need to. So really can depend on the use case and the user to have really kind of tailored solutions. A very strong benefit is kind of to break up these silos that are everywhere. So the value of data only can be harvested if you really connect between different disciplines, between different application areas. And that's a kind of very strong benefit also in the directed project, that you have so many different disciplines working together, kind of bring in geospatial expertise, bring in climatic expertise, risk analysis, and many more, so that we really kind of can learn from each other. And we might have kind of the same view and the same problem at some point, but use different vocabulary, or use the same vocabulary but talking about different things. So really, these projects help to understand each other and to kind of lower the barriers to really work together and help to really use the value that is covered in all those different data sets.
The output that we expected is to increase the awareness to share data and tools in a more interoperable way in order to take better decisions, and also a new way in order to manage critical situations during an emergency in terms of communication, but also in terms of management of the emergency.
We'll provide both an analytical framework, sort of a conceptual approach towards analyzing multi-risk, multi-hazard phenomenon with regards to hydrological extremes. But we also provide tailor-made solutions that actually work in our real-world labs. So it's both sort of the high-flying framework and providing solutions that have been tested in those specific contexts and that would provide also a more sustainable outcome that is that can be sort of sustained in the future, so something that lasts for the communities.
The impacts that we will have with building and combining all this information on climate extremes and adaptation to climate change will greatly reduce the damages that the European community has to face in the future. These damages go into the billions.
They will benefit from it, that they get kind of new information products that they can use in the public, that can use their local governments, but also the first responders, and can look into the data sets and be better prepared. And this is kind of essential value to all the taxpayers to be better prepared in cases of very severe dramatic situations. And I think that's a key benefit, and also having disciplines talking to each other and unlocking the value. So we have a lot of data, and we have to turn this data into information and then act based on this information. And that's what we make possible in Directed.